Hey guys, welcome to Boxing Squad for boxing news and views from around the internet. This is the post-fight review for the Daniel Dubois and Ebenezer Tetteh fight in London. Daniel Dubois drops Ebenezer Tetteh twice in the first round. The referee has seen enough, and Daniel Dubois gets the knockout win and takes home the vacant Commonwealth title. So I'll get to the action proper. It's pretty brief, under a round's worth of action, and then on to some thoughts about Daniel Dubois and the what next, because obviously this guy is starting to build up a decent resume. He's working through the levels. How far can he go and where to next? But we'll start with the fight, and even ahead of the first round one bell ringing, there were ominous signs. Ebenezer Tetteh, you can see here on screen, coming together, with the referee ahead of the fight, wouldn't look at Dubois, and then, he didn't actually have his mouth guard in, so that caused a delay in the fight starting. But as soon as it got going, Daniel Dubois coming out aggressively behind the jab, looking for openings, and Ebenezer Tetteh, you could tell this wasn't going to last long. He didn't have a lot of defense, didn't have a lot of anything. And it was actually some good variation from Daniel Dubois which opened Ebenezer Tetteh up. He was working a left to the body, then bringing it up to the head, and then back to the body, and Ebenezer Tetteh didn't really know how to defend himself, and it was a vicious right hand that came through after that sequence of, left to the body and head, etc., to drop Ebenezer Tetteh, put him on his backside, and it really was a good little sort of like opening up a can there for Daniel Dubois. Got his man down. Tetteh beats the count, but he's on his backside again within seconds. Daniel Dubois comes up and really just lets his hands go. Left, right, Ebenezer Tetteh down. The referee, seen enough, waves it off, and Ebenezer Tetteh, you can see here on screen, this is his face after it was stopped. He wasn't happy with the referee, but in my view it was very lucky for him because it was only going one way, and it looked like he was probably about to be obliterated. His lights would have been put out. And ahead of this fight, I did say this really was a mismatch, and I did fear for his safety, and I think the referee, quite mercifully for Ebenezer Tetteh, jumped in. So despite his protests, I didn't have any issue with the stoppage because it was only going to end one way, and it was going to end badly for the Ghanaian. So that was all the action in the fight. It really wasn't too much to it. The first minute, a little bit of feeling out. Daniel Dubois obviously working behind the jab, and then he just sort of started opening Ebenezer Tetteh up, and it was all over. So he picks up the vacant Commonwealth title, adding to the sort of mixture of belts that he's got. He's got an area level belt, the English title, the British title. He's got a WBO strap of some form. Now he's got the Commonwealth title. He's got a whole bunch of different titles that he is sort of picking up, and they have this every belt sort of theme that he is going to be working through, trying to pick up everything along the way. And for a fighter who's 22 years old, he's just had a birthday in the past week or so, there is no real rush because Dubois, not a big amateur background, and obviously in the pros, what is he now, 12 or 13 fights deep, they are bringing him along at a certain pace. They're not going to rush him into too much too quick. And I didn't catch the post-fight interview because there seemed to be a problem with the audio feed, so I could see it, but there just was no sound, so I missed whatever Dubois said and what Frank Warren said. But they have been talking about every belt, so it would make logical sense at some point that they're going to go for the European title. And there were 2 European titles that they could potentially target, but I guess with the UK coming out of the EU soon, maybe that European Union title, which is the secondary title that the EBU has, maybe that won't be on offer to Dubois. I'm not sure of how all that works, but he can obviously still go for that EBU title, but maybe that will be a couple of fights down the line. They might just sort of hold firm for the moment, have him defend the Commonwealth title. There could be a couple of different names that you could sort of go, okay, we'll light him up with this guy, and it's still a pretty safe fight. I've seen a number of guys sort of mentioning different Commonwealth level fighters. So it remains to be seen what Frank Warren wants to do, and there has been talk about a potential fight with Joe Joyce at some point. From what Joyce's manager Sam Jones is saying, they're not really looking at Dubois at this point in time. They're sort of looking sort of a bit higher level than where Daniel Dubois has been fighting at. So I think their paths could potentially cross at some point, but maybe not in the next sort of 6 months or so. Maybe it's a year or two down the line. Daniel Dubois in a couple of years will be fighting for a heavyweight title, but until then they will just keep working him through the levels. So he is going to be a problem, a big problem for a lot of guys in the heavyweight division, and obviously he's not just all about power. And you saw against Ebenezer Tetteh tonight, there was some variation, there was a method to what he was doing there. And actually, ahead of the fight in the warm-up, and I pulled this down from Daniel Dubois' Instagram, it was a live feed, they were actually working on some of the stuff that left to the body which first opened Ebenezer Tetteh up. They had seen, obviously, he was a little bit vulnerable to that sort of shot, and they were working on that. So, obviously they'd done their due diligence on this guy. Even though Dubois says he doesn't watch a lot of film on the guys that he fights, doesn't mean that his team doesn't. But this was a good performance by Dubois, and hopefully we see him again before the end of 2019. He's been one of the more active prospects at the moment. I think this was his 4th fight for the year, and hopefully he can squeeze another in. Hopefully it's a bit better level than Ebenezer Tetteh, because let's face it, even though Frank Warren was saying it wasn't a hand-picked opponent, it totally was. Ebenezer Tetteh was number 369 in the world on BoxRec. Blatant cherry pick, and I'm glad that he wasn't seriously hurt. But Dubois, he looked good, and this will keep the sort of hype bubbling along for him, and obviously he'll start to get a little bit more sort of casual awareness breakthrough the more he climbs up the levels. What did you make of it all? Drop a comment, loud and often. Hit like, hit subscribe. Follow me on Twitter, boxing_squared. I'm out.